The Secret Door Network. Book 1, The Quiet Door. Chapter 9, An Unexpected Invitation. Days passed, and while the women continued to puzzle over the question left by 1-800-5194, the coffee shop became their usual battlefield of quiet contemplation. Their secret message board had been unlocked to a level they hadn't anticipated, and yet the journey felt unfinished, incomplete. Lina sat at the table, her laptop open, the encrypted layers of the hidden message board staring back at her. "We're missing something," she muttered, barely audible. Violet, seated across from her with her coffee in hand, raised an eyebrow. "You think?" May arrived moments later, sliding into her chair with a sigh. "I don't know about you guys, but I've been losing sleep thinking about that stupid question." Lina smirked. "Same here. Why? It's maddeningly vague." Violet stretched her arms, nodding in agreement. "It's like we've reached the end of the road, but he's telling us there's still more, and I can't shake the feeling that we're supposed to be looking for something we're not seeing." As if on cue, Lina's laptop pinged with a new message. Her heart raced. It wasn't often they received live updates from the board. She opened the message quickly, her fingers trembling slightly as she read aloud. "I know you're close. I have something for you. If you're ready, follow the instructions. Meet me tomorrow at noon outside the brew. I'll be wearing red." The message was signed, as always, by 1-800-5194. Violet blinked in surprise. "Wait, what?" May leaned in, eyes wide. "He wants to meet us? In person?" Lina's gaze stayed fixed on the screen. "It looks like it. But why now? He's always kept his distance, never getting too close. Why suddenly reveal himself?" Violet chewed her lip thoughtfully. Maybe he's ready for the next step. Maybe the game is changing, and this is part of it. May wasn't convinced. Or it's a trap. I mean, this guy has been toying with us for months. How do we know he's not setting us up for something bigger? Lina scrolled back through the message, looking for any hidden clues. It's possible, but what choice do we have? This is the closest we've ever been to learning who he is. If we don't go, we might never find out. May crossed her arms. "I'm not saying we shouldn't go. I just think we need to be careful." Violet laughed softly. "Careful? With what? He's been sitting across the room from us this whole time, and we've done nothing but play his game. What's the worst that could happen now?" Lina smiled, her excitement bubbling beneath the surface. "I think we need to go. We need to see this through." They all exchanged glances, the weight of the decision hanging in the air. Meeting 1-800-5194 felt like stepping into the unknown, a confrontation they hadn't expected but couldn't resist. Finally, May sighed, shaking her head. "All right, I'm in." Violet raised her coffee cup in mock salute. "Let's do it." Lina looked at the message one last time before closing her laptop. "Tomorrow, then. Noon. We'll finally meet him." The next day, the air outside the brew was cool and crisp, the late morning sunlight casting long shadows on the sidewalk. Lina, May, and Violet stood together, scanning the street for any sign of the man who had orchestrated their months-long puzzle. "He said he'd be wearing red," May reminded them, her eyes darting around. "Do you see anyone?" Violet shook her head, nervously clutching her coffee. "I don't see—" "Wait." Lina turned just in time to see a man approaching from across the street. He was wearing a red scarf, the bold color standing out against the muted tones of the city. It was him. It had to be. The man approached slowly, his posture casual but deliberate. As he drew closer, they recognized the familiar figure. The man with the fedora. Today, his hat was a deep black, sharp against the red scarf wrapped around his neck. He smiled slightly as he reached them, a knowing glint in his eyes. "Hello," he said, his voice smooth and calm. "I'm glad you came." Lina stared at him, stunned. It's really you." He nodded, his eyes never leaving theirs. "You've been looking for me for a long time. And now, here we are." May crossed her arms, her skepticism creeping back. "Why now? Why show yourself?" The man smiled, tilting his head slightly. "Because you're ready. You've unlocked the final door, but the answer to the question, why, is something I can't give you. You have to find that for yourselves." Violet stepped forward, her voice filled with curiosity. "Then why meet us? What's the next part of the game?" The man with the fedora paused, his expression softening. "The next part isn't about riddles or hidden doors. It's about what you choose to build from here." Lina narrowed her eyes. What do you mean? He took a deep breath, looking at each of them in turn. I've given you the tools, the puzzles, and the challenges, but now it's up to you to decide what comes next. You asked yourselves why you were doing this, and that's the question that will define everything you build moving forward. May stared at him, her mind racing. So, this is it? We've reached the end? The man smiled softly. No, you've reached the beginning. And with that, he turned and walked away, leaving them standing in stunned silence on the sidewalk, the red scarf trailing behind him. They watched him disappear into the crowd, the weight of his words settling over them. The game, it seemed, was far from over, but it was no longer about following someone else's riddles. It was about finding their own path.